Now, constraints on public policies can arise from various factors that can be either socio-economic, political, institutional, or the cultural aspects. Now, all these factors can significantly impact the formulation, implementation, as well as the effectiveness of the public policies. Now, when we talk about the socio-economic constraints of the public policies, it refers to the limitations imposed either by the social or the economic conditions of a country or a region. Now, these factors can affect the feasibility as well as the practicality of certain policy messages. Now, the limited resources. Now, the insufficient fundings as well as the budgetary constraints can limit the government abilities to implement the ambitious policies. Now, we can take an example that if a country is in a high debt burden, now this at that time the country may face challenges with regarding to the funding expenses in the social welfare programs. Now, income inequalities. Now, the high level of income inequalities can also hinder the efforts to design the equitable policies. Now, also the high rate of unemployment and the lack of skilled labor. Now, it can also hinder the success of the economic policies that focus either on the job creation or on the workforce development. Now, poverty is an important and a very important constraint of the socio-economic constraints of the public policy. Now, when we talk about India, despite having an impressive economic growth, a substantial portion of India still lives in poverty. Now, this affects the policymakers. Which struggles to design the inclusive policies that lift the millions of the people out of the poverty and also to bridge the gap between rich and the poor. And the last we have is the educational disparities that exist between the urban areas as well as the rural areas can be a constraint of the socio-economic aspect of the public policy. Now, the second one we have is the political constraints